Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3-Star Rift Clears. Today is a very special episode because we are finally, and I mean finally, finishing out the rifts in the Sigma difficulty. And the last 4 rifts that we have to take on are the ones that are currently outlined on your screen. Everything else that we've done has been done in a previous video, so you will be able to check those out if you haven't already. Before we jump into the video today, make sure you take a moment and check if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please do so as it greatly helps me out. We're nearing 75 subscribers and that subscription is free and easy. Without further ado, let's jump into the rift clears. Now the first rift that we'll be having a look at today is a solo rift, and 3 of the 4 rifts that we'll be looking at are the solo style. This first one is the Wolverine Solo rift. Now this one for me was incredibly easy. Not because of the fight that's contained within it, but because Wolverine has been a main staple of my team in any playthrough of the game, so I have him at quite a high level. Now, the things that you need to keep in mind for getting the 3-star clear condition on this fight is dealing 40,000 plus damage with abilities, which you're going to be able to do anyway because those abilities shell out an enormous amount of damage, and that's kind of what you need for this type of a fight. But the second criteria is more speed-based, where you need to finish in 2 minutes and 45 seconds or less. And we're going to showcase what that looks like right now. Alright, so the quirk with this fight is we've got Corvus, and most of Corvus's copy clones here can be taken out with a single use of the adamantium uppercut attack, but ultimately it's the main attack that you're going to be focusing on for the majority of this fight. As you can see, it is burning through all of Corvus's health, and we're not even going to get a chance to stagger him before we get our health, or his health, down to that first quarter, which is going to trigger the second phase of the fight. Now, for the first phase here, he does just kind of loop around, and you're going to want to try and roll around those shockwaves that he sends out. But we are just about to the point where we've got him down into that second phase. I'm using a couple of standard attacks to conserve some of my EP as we do that. Now, as he enters the second phase, he's going to summon a bunch of phantom clones that stand in the center of the fighter's ring, but they are pretty directional attack-wise, and they're not looking to come after you directly. So in this stage, we've got Corvus, who is sending some of his glaives down from the ceiling, and they will explode with a variety of different energy-based attacks. But you do want to do what you can to have the Berserker's Rage active, as that amplifies Wolverine's damage output, and it really amps up the damage that you can take, or deal out, I should say, from the adamantium uppercuts that we're doing here. And again, it's a super, super efficient tactic with Wolverine to bring, as you're on your way down, to use his falling aerial attack, as it not only deals a decent amount of damage, but it also allows you to passively refill some of your EP that you've used with the adamantium uppercut attack. One final round of these glaives coming up, and we should be just about done with the Corvus fight. We've almost got him down to the last little bit of his stagger, but it's not even going to be necessary with that last adamantium uppercut, which gets us the clear in under the 2 minute 45 second, and we've also got more than enough attack damage on that round as well. The second solo mission that we're looking at today is still a level 34. It's the Black Panther solo mission, Panther's Plight. Now, Black Panther is one of those characters that I think I underestimated a little bit, because he has a crazy, crazy amount of damage output, which we'll showcase in the fight here momentarily. You've got to get this fight cleared out, which is easy enough. The second criteria is getting 250,000 attack damage with abilities, and I know that's a big jump from what was expected from Wolverine, but it's an entirely different kind of fight, so you'll be able to access that and complete that landmark pretty easy. The third criteria that you're going to need to keep in mind is clearing this out in 3 minutes and 30 seconds or less, and that's particularly the run that we're going to be going for, but you'll still see the wide application of the ability attacks and just how devastating they can be in the following video. So right off the bat, you're going to notice that we are in the X-Men training facility, and the danger room specifically. We're going to cycle through a couple of different enemy types, and the nice thing is that the trial time does not start until the room has booted up and loaded the enemies, which is good. Now, Black Panther's final ability that he unlocks is just a crazy, crazy damage dealer, because he will swipe up with his adamantium claws and he can one-shot the mighty enemies if he initiates that attack while he's immediately next to them. And it's just kind of insane the amount of damage that can be dealt through that. If you ever get in a bit of a pinch with Black Panther, remember that he does have the ability where he can store up a bunch of energy and then release it back as a concussive blast as his second passive ability there. So you do need to be close enough to your opponents in order to get the full yield of that, but it's a pretty nice get off me, get out of jail free card, if I've ever seen one. So into the second phase here, we've moved into the Temple of the Hand, and we're using his lunge attack mostly because it traps a lot of enemies into it, and most of these enemies are the smaller grunt type enemies. Now, as with the regular Temple of the Hand, there are these floor traps that you need to keep in mind, but you can actually dodge out of the way of them if you do happen to accidentally step on one of those floor panels. So it's not as big of a deal as it otherwise might seem. At this point, we're just really trying to burn down the basic enemies here, and the dash attack is just a pretty succinct way of doing that. I am comboing in a couple of regular attacks to make sure we don't get too low on our EP output, but most of these enemies are tending to drop a little bit of that EP anyway, so it's not something that you have to pay super close attention to, but still keep it in mind. We've got this final enemy here, and with that adamantium chlorasp, we are able to burn him down, which gets us into the third and final phase of this fight, which, where the previous phase was mainly comprised of smaller grunt type enemies, this phase is primarily comprised of the mighty enemies. And that Vibranium Claw is just devastating to these opponents because it takes them out so fast, and I do mean so fast. At this point, to conserve some time, we go ahead and pop our ultimate or extreme ability, and that gets all of the smaller grunts burned down, but it also fully staggers out the mighty enemy that's over there on the lip of the arena. I don't care as much about him because I'm not concerned about being able to take him down. I'm more looking to get rid of some of these mighty enemies that are applying area of effect type attacks, as those are just not fun to deal with to any extent. We've just about got this final mighty enemy burned down, but to build up a little bit extra of our EP to unleash those attacks is going to be ideal. One final regular combo through the rest of that, and we've got this clear within the 3-minute and 30-second time frame, easy. The third rift and final solo rift that we're having a look at in today's video is the level 40 solo dark magic trial using Doctor Strange. This fight isn't that difficult to clear out. It can be a little tedious because it is a fight against Dormammu and his mechanics are a little bit wonky. So again, there's a pretty high ability damage threshold that you need to be able to meet, which is the 580,000 or more damage threshold, which it's not that hard to do. Doctor Strange's bolts of Bolthak revolve around the entire stage and encompass every single enemy that he hits. Granted, it doesn't linger on them, but between that and Flames of the Faltine, you're going to be just fine with getting these attacks finished out. Winds of Watum is not going to help you at all in this matchup, but it's not a super useful move anyway, and Bands of Sidorak could have its usefulness, but if you're looking to get that clear in the 3 minutes and 20 seconds or more, it's not going to be something you want to focus on, especially because that's the part of the fight that tends to get a little more finicky than others. But we're going to showcase how to get that 3-minute and 20-second clear right now. So the biggest thing that you'll remember with the fight against Dormammu is he is particularly vulnerable to these dark crystals. And the dark crystals deal a decent amount of damage on their base value, but they deal significantly more damage if you can absorb energy-based attacks that either Dormammu throws out at you or his grunts do. A fully charged stone will completely burn out his stagger bar from nothing. And the best strategy that you have is, yes, we have a bunch of EP to use. We've got Flames of the Faltine and the Bolts of Bolthak, but your most reliable damage dealing move is actually going to be these dark crystals once you've supercharged them with some energy attacks. And you're not going to have really that much of a shortage of them, so don't be too concerned about not having enough power. At that point, I did throw it a little bit early. If I would have waited a little longer, I probably could have gotten him to his second phase a lot quicker. But I'm not that concerned, especially because my Flames of the Faltine will be able to get him into that phase, which further contributes to the attack damage that we're looking for anyway. At this point, when Dormammu enters into the second stage of his fight, he will conjure up a protective barrier, which will take 2 of these fully charged stones to diminish, and then a 3rd stone to deplete out his stagger bar. The positive thing is, not only are you going to be able to gain damage or charge to those dark crystals from the enemies that spawn, but there's also some of these elemental orbs that pop up, specifically the fire and electric type orbs, which are the most efficient to charge up those dark crystals, as they will not knock you out of it as the ice crystals tend to. At this point, we're going to lob another dark crystal in. That fully takes out the protective barrier around Dormammu. He will not conjure it again until we have got him down to his stagger bar, which is what we're focusing on primarily with the use of the dark crystals. Now, with a couple more of those attacks from the fire orb and the electric orb, that gets us fully charged to the point where we can use this to our advantage. And I immediately grab another dark crystal because this is a battle we've got to take on by ourselves. And did you see how much damage that dealt? It was at least 25 to 30% of his health. And with one final crystal here, that's going to get him down to the final little sliver of his health, which ultimately is going to be pretty easy to finish out. Now, I was hoping that throwing that fully charged crystal there would get him before the barrier goes up. Turns out that does not work. You need to wait for his barrier to fully recharge before you can lob another attack in there. We're wanting to use a couple of our Bolts of Boltak and our Flames of the Faltine here, as I do not have any more dark crystals at my disposal, but one of those enemies we defeated just now grants us the last dark crystal that we need to burn out the remainder of the stagger, or the protective shielding, around Dormammu here, and we need to grab one final stone, which is actually right next to him. And with that flame attack, Dormammu has fully charged that crystal, allowing us to throw it at him, and that nets us the clear in 3 minutes and 20 seconds or less. It's a very efficient battle strategy. The fourth and final rift that we are looking at today, and the final rift in the Sigma rift, is the level 45 boss wave, where we need to defeat the members of the Black Order subsequently. First, Ebony Maw is going to spawn. He will immediately be followed up by Supergiant. Supergiant falls and brings out Cull Obsidian. Once Cull Obsidian is out of the way, you get Corvus Glaive, and the final member of the Black Order that you need to take on and clear out is Proxima Midnight. They all have their own specific quirks, but they're manageable on a one-on-one type basis and interaction. So to get the clear here, we need to get through it with 3 or fewer teammates incapacitated, which is a bit of a stretch in the first or early game, but once you have your team up at a reasonable level, it's not as big of a concern as it previously was. And that final star is going to come from getting the clear in the 5-minute and 30-second time frame or less. So again, right off the bat, Ebony Maw comes in, and he really just kind of stands there and takes it. He's not the most strategic fighter in the Black Order, but this also wasn't meant to be all at the same difficulty level. So at this point, I'm really just laying into him with Wolverine's Adamantium Uppercut, and that just rips through Ebony Maw. We've got him down in like 20-30 seconds, which is a very efficient turnover. Supergiant then spawns, and her fight is a little bit more annoying, you could say, because these orbs that she summons not only slow you, but if you get stuck in them for too long, you will start getting your controls inverted, which is never a fun time. But as long as you can dash your way around them, you should be fine, and it's not like the inverted controls or the control swap isn't something that you can learn to work around. So at this point, we've got her just about down. We've not got her full health depleted in that stagger, but we're not going to need to stagger her again because one final Adamantium Uppercut from Wolverine or Venom Strike from Miles is going to be more than enough to get her down. The third fighter that shows up is Colobsidian, and if you do recall, he's Power Stone infused, so he hits especially hard. You don't want to be taking any unblocked blows or even blocked hits from Colobsidian. That being said, he is a bit of a tank with some lower defense, so as soon as you lay into him, I found it best to just unleash your extreme attacks to burn down the remainder of his health, so you don't have to risk taking any more unnecessary damage from him. We're making some really good progress here, and the next portion of the fight is the segment against Corvus Glaive. Now, this is probably one of the longer segments against the members of the Black Order because he summons so many of his clones to come reinforce him and help. But as we switch over to Miles and focus on using our synergy attacks and our abilities of that Venom Strike, we're really making some pretty nice headway here. Now, Corvus, in and of himself, does have a bit of a higher damage output. Now, with Thanos, we are using our Cosmic Might Punch in order to burn down what's remaining of Corvus's stagger bar, and a dash attack and a short little attack there gets him fully staggered, though we didn't really have opportunity to do a whole lot. There's a couple of Outriders that are spawning in at this point. They're not particularly annoying. In fact, they're kind of nice to help recharge some of your MP if you've lost that. But at this point, we're really just looking to get as much damage onto Corvus as we can. This is one of the longer segments, to be sure, just given the nature of the fight. So I eventually end up using the beam attack from Thanos. As it's directional, it's not as easy to knock him out of that animation, and he's overall pretty nice with that constant damage output that he's providing as well. Corvus is just about back down on the field, and we should be able to finish him out with a couple more well-placed attacks from Wolverine and his Adamantium Uppercut. And we've got to lay in a couple of regular attacks to get his MP charged up to the point where we can unleash that attack again. But one final Adamantium Uppercut staggers him, and then the following aerial attack takes him out, queuing in Proxima Midnight, who is the fifth and final combatant of this stretch of the boss rush. Now, Proxima, she attacks in big sweeping curves, teleports a bit around the stage, and she eventually does have some lightning attacks that she throws up, which will then come back down and auto-target to your general area. They're not homing attacks, which is nice, but as soon as we see that those circles have spawned on the ground, you'll want to dash away from them, and unlike taking them to the face like I did just there. We've got her just about staggered out, and with that final bit of stagger, we are able to unleash our extreme attacks to burn down almost all of what was remaining of her health. Now, Gambit, at this point, I'm resorting to the Deadly Deal because it's a ranged attack that can take down the remaining sliver of health that she has, and that gets us the clear with 3 or fewer teammate incapacitations. As a matter of fact, we didn't take any, and in that 5 minute and 30 second time frame or less. So that is it for the Sigma Rifts. We've got them completely finished. We're all said and done here. Now, the last thing that I want to take a moment to have a look at are the alternate costumes that you unlock through the Solo Rifts, as well as getting all 51 stars available in this difficulty of Rifts. So first we'll have a look at the alternate costumes that we've unlocked in today's video. The first is this alternate outfit for Wolverine. It's a older version of his outfit from some of his earlier comic days, but it is quite a nice looking outfit that I will be running for the foreseeable future. The next outfit is one for Black Panther. This one closely resembles the skin that is used by Killmonger, as it has more of the gold accents than the silver ones, which is another really good look for him. This outfit for Doctor Strange, it's not my favorite. I don't really like how everything's blue. I like the contrast of the Cloak of Levitation and other parts of his outfit. Nevertheless, it still looks really good, and it's nice to add to the collection. Hawkeye has an outfit that's hardly distinguishable from his regular. The purples are a little more accented, so yeah, it's a little more reliant to some of what we see in the comics, but nothing super noteworthy here. Nightcrawler, on the other hand, gets completely palette swapped. He gets his classic X-Men uniform, and those colors are just really aesthetically pleasing and nice to look at. Loki has not a whole lot of changes as well, but I'm okay with some of the changes that we see in his outfit, mainly because it substitutes a lot of the gold on his outfit for more of a silver accent, which really adds a duality to his character and looks quite nice on him. So that is it for the Sigma style rifts. Now we still have a couple of rifts that we're going to be going through as we continue out through this series. We're going to take a brief break and to transition over to the Phi rifts. These are the rifts that are available through the free DLC, as that will be kind of a segue into what we're looking for more particularly. It'll also give me time to build up and bulk up my team a little bit more to conquer the Lambda rifts, as those are highly labor intensive, and the final fight against Thanos is not easy to any degree. But we're going to do it. We're going to take them on, and you are going to be here to watch it. So thanks again for your support. If you enjoyed this video and this series, feel free to leave a like on the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And again, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, as the subscription is free and easy. Thanks again for your time, and you have a fantastic rest of your day.